Okay, hello, welcome back to another game of chess. They're playing e4 as per usual. Our opponent decides to respond with. They go for a Caro-Kann, meaning I can play d4 here, and after d5, presumably, we can push past with e5, and they play c5. Okay, I was kind of hoping to see bishop f5 so we could go for a nice Van der Wiel attack with g4, the opening popularized largely by Alexei Shirov, I believe. I refer to it as the Shirov variation anyway. However, we see c5 here. I'm just going to play pretty simple c3. I think that probably this is just going to end up being like an advanced French defense, although clearly my opponent's going to be able to develop their light squared bishop, and that's kind of worth the loss of the tempo here. In a normal advanced French, you know, they'd have e6 played already, which even though they're kind of a move behind now, the fact that they haven't got that pawn committed to e6 does give them this flexibility. I'm just going to play knight f3. Presumably we're going to see a move like bishop g4. I mean, there we go. That does seem like the fairly obvious place for that bishop to be developed to. Honestly, I'm going to start by pinning their knight. I mean, they've pinned ours, let me pin theirs. I think probably a6 is going to be a pretty immediate response, I guess. Not entirely sure. They decide to take anyway? That seems odd. That seems very odd, in fact. We're going to take with the queen now. You don't have the opportunity to now win this pawn. They now choose to play e6 though. Okay, so it's an advanced French, but they've traded off the bishop for the knight first. I think what I'm going to do here is actually play the move a3. Kind of freaky move, but perhaps preparing b4 as an idea. There's a line in the Paulson attack, I believe it is, and also in many structures like this where the queen comes to b6, we're of course going to take here, and the queen coming to b6 can put unwanted pressure, as we see here, on the b2 pawn, so being able to push that pawn at some point might be very helpful. At this point, I am going to remove the knight because I'd much rather, you know, not lose this pawn here. And then we can't play bishop e3 immediately because, as I mentioned, this problem on b2 here, but we could play queen c3. Now, I'm going to go for that. This could look pretty dumb in the sense that we're robbing the knight of that natural c3 square there. However, controlling b2 and d4 and keeping an eye on c6 is, I think, extremely useful, and I don't even want to develop my knight this way anyway. Where's it going if we develop the knight to c3? I don't think anywhere that meaningful, at least immediately. How about we go for b4, then knight d2, knight b3, and put that flipping pony on c5. Now that is an idea that I can massively get behind. However, preemptively, I'm going to play bishop e3, just to add a lot of stability to the center here. If they play knight f5, I'm actually okay giving up this bishop. I think I'm just going to try and play for a really strong knight here. Although b4, there is the problem of a5. Could take. Could they sack their queen? No, because we have bishop c1. It's an interesting idea, though. We will go for b4. It doesn't seem like we have too much of a choice. a5 is going to be effectively indispensable to our opponent here. Maybe not immediately. Maybe they decide to move the knight first or something. But otherwise, you give me this completely just immortal bind on the position. The queen and the rook don't make much sense. They do develop and hit this. I'm now going to play knight d2 because I really do not care about losing this bishop here. And we could very much get this pony to c5. I mean, what I've done here is I've made an observation after our opponent has taken a cross here with their b-pawn, and that is that the c5 square has become a hole. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar through maybe my recap of this concept, or the fact that it's just ubiquitous. It begins with a vowel, but it has a Y sound at the start. Ubiquitous, presumably, is the correct grammar there. Not exactly sure. Either way, it's a ubiquitous concept in chess. The point is that our opponent now can never defend c5 with a pawn, and so if we now make efforts to swing a pony and whack it there, that could definitely bode very well for us. I kind of prefer castling nice and early though, and then I guess we just go for knight here. Especially also leaving the knight on b3 does say, first of all, that this is actually super secure now. Second of all, that a5 is a lot less possible. Hold on, we could just be looking at a big attack down the c5. Maybe we swing the rook over. I mean, there seems to be a lot of activity going on over here on the queen side. They decide to play f6. It does mean we can now play this with tempo on this pawn. And if here and they take, I could play pawn takes maybe. They move the queen. Take here. We give them some pass pawns there. So because this is a backwards pawn and we entirely dominate the square in front of it, we could just play knight a5 and put further pressure on it. Although honestly, I think taking it maybe just gives our opponent some activity down the c file. We could actually play f4. And you know what? I'm going to. I'm actually going to. If you take it, I want to take here. I want to preserve this structure and just keep this squashed. Just prevent the pushing of any of these pawns. I mean, we control c5 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. There are not even if we use the possible array of colors on Lee chess, enough colors to show all the possibilities here. And if you do choose to take, they just play h6, which I don't entirely know what that achieves. Maybe they want to play like bishop g5 or something. But if you do choose to take, we're fine to take like this, I think. I mean, we could just play g4. I do kind of like that, actually. Actually, you know what I prefer? I prefer now that we have an open f file, putting one of my rooks on it, slide the other rook to the c file, and maybe we should be jumping into here or here, but we have time. Again, we really are preventing the motion of any of these pawns. They're rerouting their pieces in a pretty major way here. We have this with tempo of a fork here. We could also just play a nice little, you know, positional sacrifice. I'm not entirely sure that achieves anything though, let's be real. If I do this, they can just chop it off, and I actually do hate that very much. I'm so tempted to just play g4 here. You know what I'm more tempted to do, in fact? Is to just lift the rook. I mean, why not? Why not try and gain some more activity and stack really on this f-file? I mean, the rooks don't need... I mean, we've already made the point that the job is very well done here on c5. They have now moved the bishop, which means that if I trade off this bishop, bang, there's no defender of c5 anymore. So what I'm thinking is knight c5, threaten a fork now. You don't have the option to trade that off. You can hit the rook, threaten a checkmate, but do I not just have a pretty simple rook g3? I believe I do. All of a sudden, we've got a rook on the third rank and the g file. What an excellently positioned piece. The queen's going to go and do something about this backwards pawn, which is now just going to be a massive problem because our knight is so well placed on this c5 hole that we've exploited. And I mean, just in like any endgame, we should just be winning, I believe. I mean, let's say queen f5's played. I guess there are concerns with f2. We could play the move queen d2, which is kind of nice. Defending this, also maybe threatening. Yeah, okay, hold on. I do like this a lot, actually. Queen d2. Just a little glance at h6. With potential problems there, but also anchoring down f2. f1 is held. This knight is annoyingly indelible. Good word. It means to be hard to remove, I think. But yeah, we are going to very much struggle to remove this knight. Now, you know, on h4, it's a little weirdly placed, but it is certainly looking at some very unpleasantly close to my king kind of squares. Yeah, we can't, like, let's say our opponent just plays rook here, for instance. We can't go here. Oh, hold on. Now we can, because now you're not threatening queen f2. Now you're not threatening queen f2. And we hit this, and we hit this. Oh yeah, baby. Queen d2, what a subtle little move. You don't have a check here. King is completely uncheckable, apart from, I guess, knight f3, but that obviously makes no difference. In fact, we wouldn't take with the rook, then our queen would hang. So they play queen h7. We have... Oh, we just take here and play rook h3. And after this, we can play g3. Good game. Thank you very much. Opponent resigns in 3, 2, 1. Bang. Or not. You know, you can't win them all. Okay, I guess we'll take. We are just up a clean knight here, but actually no, we're up a knight and a pawn. Yeah, and you don't have a check, and this is still weak, and the knight that we're up is in fact the most beautiful piece. We might even... Oh, I'm going to try and do something nice here. Like knight d7, knight f6. Come on, you just know it has to happen. I mean, this is an insane move, but respect, our opponent clearly wants to counterplay with the king. I'm just going to go into h7, because broadly speaking, getting into the 7th rank is clearly a good idea. If you do come into f4 here, I think I might play like rook e1, just to cut off this possible move. Or we just give the check. They keep coming in. I don't really want to lose this pawn though. Okay, opponent is getting extremely excited with the king apparently. I think what I'm going to do is just play a pretty calm rook h3 actually. And say, you know what? You're not coming in here. We've absolutely boxed this little line off here, and we could even go like this because clearly if you trade, you know, things aren't going to be looking good. So I do think we will just go for this. Takes. Okay, now the counterplay you have with a single rook is not exactly that exciting. We're going to play a4, and we're going to just play like rook a3. We're going to bully this king out, and the knight is just actually doing a pretty good job of holding e4 as well. I think we can pre-move this actually. I mean, I could have pre-moved it. Yeah, they can move with a discovered check. I don't really see that being very meaningful. We just come up here. Again, king's not really coming in anywhere impressive. We could go check here, I guess. And then, ostensibly, that is a good move. Jesus, look at that. I mean, it's pretty hard to argue with just going back here. You can give me a check. We're just going to walk to this side of the rook. I don't know why my opponent isn't resigning here, to be completely honest. You know, we have a passed pawn with a... Dude, come on, man. You got to give it up at some point. You really do have to give it up at some point. But apparently that's not the point. They're going to take this pawn and walk into a fork instead, I guess. I guess that's possible. Okay. Probably we didn't even need to go for such a thing, but... I mean, I'll promote to a bunch of knights if my opponent's going to mess me around here. It's going to be disrespectful not resign. But they do resign, so respect. Okay, so here we are in the analysis with 96% accuracy. Clearly a very accurate game. But there's this big mistake here, which was playing f4. I mean, I guess we'll go through the game chronologically, so there's a bit more context to this. But, you know, from the point at which they played rook fe8, which allowed queen takes h6, of course, they were dead lost and the conversion was pretty smooth. But it's interesting that I built something a little more meaningful of an advantage here, although, again, it's only plus 1.3. Okay, let's just quickly go through the game. So e4, we see this Caro-Kann, we see c5, c3, knight f6 here. I mean, knight c6, sorry. I'm just going to keep the master's database open because knight f3 makes sense, bishop g4. And then I went for bishop b5, which is clearly not very established theory, and white does not do well here in the 4 master games that exist in this position. Probably I should be doing a little more prep. Oh, Yu Yang Yi played a game and took on c5 here. Guess I'll do that in the future. But yeah, I'm not very prepped against this at all, because I think generally what I used to do against this move was just take and then play some kind of a3 b4 setup, but I decided I kind of hated that, but only semi-recently, so this is an opening where I don't have much prep. But bishop b5 isn't completely ridiculous. Takes, they go e6. a3 was a little odd. We did at some point give a slight advantage to our opponent, but it only ever got as bad as minus 0.8. I mean, that's hardly anything to write home about. And then I did choose to trade this off, a little inaccurate, queen c3, bishop e3 stabilizing that pawn, then move the rook across, and then b4. Okay. I mean, for all the slight inaccuracy involved in that sequence, I think the idea of a3 and b4 did prove to be pretty useful. Yeah, so I think one of our opponent's best moves here was in fact a5, and after I take, supposedly queen a6 is a good move, which makes sense, not really allowing me to castle. However, there are going to be passed pawns on the a file to worry about, and we can probably go for some construction that does allow us to castle at some point, maybe even playing f3 and king f2. But that would have been, I think, a little scarier. The opponent brought the knight in, we brought our knight in, then decided to castle. I mean, honestly, this was just pretty minute fluctuations at this point, but once they brought the rook across, I brought my rook across, which was the best move. And then I should have played bishop f4 instead of pawn f4. Although again, plus 1.3, this is a mistake clearly, because we go to some kind of somehow drawish game. And not drawish necessarily, sorry, but we just have equal winning opportunities at least. I guess bishop f4, like if takes, clearly my bishop's well placed here. And after pawn f4, takes, we do give our opponent some activity down the f file that they probably were lacking a little with the complete bind we had on the queen side. Like they weren't going to get any activity this way, and so, you know, actually helping them get a fully open file rather than just a semi-open file along the f file probably undermined that kind of positional suffocation that was going on the queen side. I guess that makes some sense. Still, this isn't stupid stuff. We bring the rook to the f file now. Lifting the rook up was pretty decent. Trading this off, putting the knight on c5. And at this point, after knight h4, rook g3, and queen f5, I play queen d2, the best move. And this is actually a very even position. Interesting stuff. I mean, this was a pretty accurate game. Opponent, they played 88% accurately. Obviously, a couple blunders here. Oh, but yeah, but the ones near the end clearly don't matter. I think this was a game pretty characterized by this major blunder here of rook to e8, just allowing us to take on h6. But the subtle idea of moving the queen to defend and attack was pretty nice. I mean, really making use of the fact that that queen is a very multifaceted piece, clearly. Yeah, the moves they should have gone for here were rook f7 or rook c7 and stabilizing g7 most likely. Anything else starts to slip into a little more advantageous for me, but again, it was never obvious how I was going to proceed directly after this. I was talking about how indelible this knight was, but I do feel as though this rook is well placed, this knight is well placed, and as Bobby Fischer famously said, tactics tend to flow from superior positions. And in that sense, I do think we were building up a superior position by having our rook so well and actively placed, having our knight so well and actively placed. And even though it doesn't immediately seem obvious, having this queen so well and actively placed. And then, you know, if you make enough threats, your opponent is bound to miss one. So yeah, queen h6 was nice. Of course, trading this, pinning the knight, and then going for g3 was the correct tactical denouement of that situation. And then from this point on, I just decided to, yeah, just sack the pawn for the sake of simplicity, go for the check, bring our king up, go for the check with the knight, force the king back. I mean, there's not a whole lot to be said here. We start pushing the pawn. They blunder the fork. Okay, that was clearly a blunder. But, you know, we actually do give this knight some time to shine here. And then, yeah, they do choose to resign instead of going like this, allowing me to promote to a knight. And then, you know, mop up their pawns, promote to 4 knights, and stalemate them. Now, I'm sure many of you think this is the end of the video. Alas, we have a new segment. Bonus bullet game, baby. We're just going to end this video with a nice little bonus bullet game. Maybe a new segment that we introduce on the Will Taylor Chess channel, much as a chef garnishes his soup with some green leaf that I don't exactly know why they do that, but this is precisely what we're going to be doing to end this video. Let's throw in a little mate there. We're throwing knight d6, by the way. Then let's go here, and then maybe maybe knight g5 makes sense. I guess there's g6 and my knight's probably going to hang, but we can have queen f3 after that, maybe f6, but things, you know, you're pushing a lot of pawns there. I do feel the garnish wilting away though. Like it's slowly decaying, although we're still making threats. You play f5 instead of f6, so there's no tempo here, so I can now save this. Do I choose to? Probably I should, probably I should, probably I should, probably I should. Or we just castle. Castle just for the, oh no, but now this is held. Okay, didn't think about that. I didn't think about the fact that the queen held this. I thought we could, you know, put a rook here. Oh no. Oh no. Hopefully they hang this. There we go. Oh, garnish is back to life, baby. The garnish is so back. Here. Hold on. Here. Here. Oh. Double check. We don't have this because somehow the flipping knight holds. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Let's go here, hit the pony. Garnish is thoroughly wilted, but I think we could bring it back. Bring it back in the next 4.9 seconds of our clock. Take. Here. Push. Here. Here. Okay, we're going for a flag-like garnish. I guess there was a flag in the soup. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed these videos and want to support me making more, check out the links in the description. Thanks so much for watching again. Goodbye.